Welcome to Fortune and Friendship, the podcast where we believe that your most valuable asset is your network. I'm your host, Corey McNabb, and each week we'll connect with inspiring guests who are making waves in their fields. Together, we'll explore how collaboration and friendship can lead to incredible opportunities and success. Each episode, you'll hear from entrepreneurs, creative investors, and thought leaders who will share what they're currently working on and how we can join forces to create something amazing. Whether you're looking to expand your own network or discover new ways to collaborate, you'll find actionable insights and fresh ideas right here. So let's settle in, and remember, it's not who you know that counts, it's who knows you. Welcome back. I timed that off a little bit, but welcome back to Fortune and Friendship, guys. Today, we have a special guest that I will be learning his story just alongside you. And again, I apologize, guys. Last of the Halloween candy. I know that sounds crazy, but it is eating some Skittles. So, I apologize. I was trying to get it down before this all started, but it didn't happen. Anyways, back to the main event. Let's now bring up, with total awe and wonder from the audience, Mr. Kyle Kurzhal. Did I say that right?
You got it. You nailed it, dude. You'd be surprised at how many people struggle with the name. I've heard all sorts of things.
I believe it. I've butchered one or two on this podcast, so I get it.
Dude, it's just the nature of the business.
Oh yeah.
You take your best guess and then, apologize and move on.
Absolutely. So, Kyle, go ahead. This is the first time we're getting to chat. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm Kyle Kurzhal. I was raised in North Alabama. I had a big thing for tennis growing up, actually, and no longer actively play as much as I would like, but that's okay. I went to college to be a cardiac surgeon and realized very quickly that was going to be a very expensive path and it was going to involve a lot of debt. And so I decided to change over to the computer science track. And that's kind of how I got my start in technology. I had always kind of been interested in like doing some game programming, when I was younger, like most kids, like who are interested in, video games, but I didn't really have a mentor around me to help lead me. So getting into it in college made a big difference. And I fell in love with tech and have kind of just stayed in the space for a while. After that, I got married around that same time and moved back to Alabama from my previous university. I got hooked up into a startup that was local, actually, and I helped design the trademark search platform for that company from the ground up. So that was pretty interesting because I got to learn about intellectual property. And from there, I became the CTO for a short while and eventually moved over to a large corporation where I was working in a team that handled employee surveys. So it's been a very interesting career. I've kind of done a couple of different things, and I'm really excited about the stuff in AI nowadays. Like it's a game changer, man. Like there's so many opportunities.
Okay, so this is going to be an interesting one because the only experience I have with techie stuff, not experience, the only knowledge I have about this type of stuff is the fact that my dad is a senior web developer at a company, whatever. And that's it. So, I tried to get into coding a little bit, because, he was like, hey, this is great. You should go this way. So I did that a little bit. I have a basic understanding of what a computer should be able to do, but I'm very much in the mentality of just it needs to do it. I don't understand how to put the stuff together or build programs or anything like that. I just know that it can be done, and so I should be able to snap my fingers and it be done. Right? Totally realistic. I get it. So that being said, you said a lot of things I didn't understand fully.
Sure, sure.
So let's backtrack a little bit. All right. First off, you look like a young dude.
Well, thank you.
So how old are you?
I'm in my early 30s.
Okay. All right. Me too. Me too. I
I've
just
got
hit
a kid and everything, dude.
There you go. So you went to college, and that's when you got into like software stuff, space, and that's I'm guessing where you met your wife, or how did that?
We had actually met while I was in high school, and we were dating and went to the same university and everything. We got married really young, so you know that it. She's a sweetheart. I love her. She's the one for me, man. And arguably maybe we shouldn't have been married so young, but you just do life, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So this university you went to, I want to think that you're not telling us what university it was simply because maybe we wouldn't know about it. But also a part of me is like, are you ashamed of it? Are you
No,
like,
definitely
oh,
not.
all right, so what university did you go to? When did you get married? When did this kind of all start getting rolling to where you're at now?
Yeah, I went the so part of the reason I kind of skipped over that detail is because I transferred. So like I started at Union University up in Jackson, Tennessee, and they're like a private Christian university. And my whole goal was to go there for the med track because they were really well known for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole reason like I ended up switching universities, I went to University of North Alabama, was because while I was there at Union, I realized, oh man, like the debt is just going to kill me. And so knowing that I was going to marry my wife, I decided to change trajectory, and then I switched universities because it was a lot more affordable. So that's really what it came down to. I think that university would have been great. Like they had a good computer science program too. I was there for like first semester, but um, like at the end of the day, is the debt really worth it? Right? Like, can I learn this somewhere else? A skill is a skill. You know, in my view, it ends up coming down to how much effort you're willing to put into it. Just about with anything, honestly.
Okay, so you get out of college, you get married, and was this then you get into a startup?
Yep. So while I was still in like my last year or so of college, and had a fellow classmate of mine essentially reach out to me and say, "Hey, there's this guy who wants to build um, this application around trademarks. Would you be interested in joining the team to help build that up?" And I had already been kind of doing some work with the university, building some web apps for them. Like I built their directory app that I think is still running today, actually, funny enough. And so I said, yeah, like that sounds really interesting. And that's kind of what introduced me to that particular startup. And I stayed there for about 6 years. It was pretty, I think, what was most interesting about it was like we got to build something from the ground up. There's a vast difference between startup world and, existing company world. Like when you come into an existing company, there's a lot of systems that already exist. And so, the mentality you have to have when you go into something like that is, okay, I need to learn all the things that already exist and get up to speed as quickly as possible so that way I can start providing value. And usually you're going to be just kind of helping with continuing to keep operations running. And there's not going to be a lot of what would be considered like greenfield projects. So there's a little bit less flexibility for learning new tools and techniques and things like that. The startup world is completely different. Like if you're in a startup, you are moving fast. You are trying to come up with the most creative solutions you possibly can to get the job done and to get it done well. And I would say like, I'm very thankful that I actually started there because it kind of forced me to learn things very, very quickly because we had to. If we didn't, then there would be no product. There would be no service. And so I had to buckle down and dig in. I did a lot of internet searching to quickly get up to speed, and it paid off in the long run. I think it was well worth the time and effort.
Okay. So you're part of the startup for 6 years. I guess what you had mentioned something about creating a search engine?
Yes. Basically.
Okay.
Basically. Yeah. So, do you know much about intellectual property, trademarks, anything like that?
I know a little about, like, I understand that, well, I understand that it's intellectual property, right? But for the most part, no.
Okay. And you shouldn't feel bad about that because most people don't. Like, honestly, um, I would say most people, unless they're in a large business, are probably not going to know what that is. They may have heard of what, the term trademark, but they don't really understand. So the phrase trademark could generally probably be understood as something like a trade name or a slogan that you have for your business that you hold intellectual property rights for. So some of this stuff could include like I always like Nike's slogan, "Just do it." Everybody's heard of that. That slogan is trademarked, so they have exclusive rights to use it. And if you want to use it, you're going to have to go talk to them. So that's essentially what a trademark is. You can also trademark images. So like the little Nike swoosh symbol, for example, it's similar to like copyright, but it's a bit of a step up in a sense. And there's different levels. You've got like that you have to usually worry about. There's like the common law level, which is how is this commonly used, among the world, like online, things like that. There's the state level. So individual states have trademarks that you can register there. And then there's the federal level. And when you register at the federal level, generally that's going to hold a lot more value across the entirety of the states. But you may still have to deal with some weird stuff like if somebody registered a particular trademark in a state before you registered federally. So there's all sorts of little nuance to it, but that's kind of the gist of what trademarks are. And so when I joined that startup, there wasn't really a very good tool to do searching. Like you could go to the USPTO, the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and they've got like a little online search there, but it was just okay. Like it wasn't nearly as good as something like Google. Google can do a lot of semantic searching. It was more like, hey, you search for this phrase. Does this exact phrase exist? And so we built additional searching functionality around this and additional products around trademarks, essentially.
And so this was a separate app than the, what'd you say, PTO?
Yes.
USPTO?
Yeah.
Okay. Did y'all have any affiliation with them or like connection with them at all?
No, we didn't. So thankfully, the USPTO makes their data publicly available. And so we went and fetched that data and we would get it like every night. So we'd get the freshest updates essentially. And then from there, we would set up our system so you could search over that. But then we also collected data from the states. So we tried to get as many of the 50 states as possible. I think we had pretty much all of them. And then we added some additional functionality to search over the internet. So we pulled from a bunch of like social media sites, general Google search, stuff like that. And that's kind of where the power of this particular application came into play is you could just type in your search, say, hey, I'm looking for things in this category and hit go. And then it hits all these different sources and you get a full report within just a minute or two.
So who was your target audience for this?
The target audience at the time was lawyers because there were a lot of people in that space who really needed to save time. They needed like to get as much relevant data as fast as possible so that way they could do a lot more volume and make more money overall. But in my opinion, it would have been a very valuable tool to make publicly available for small businesses. Um, we didn't at the time during my time there, we didn't really position ourselves to target that market, but I think that would have been a better strategy overall.
So how did you monetize it? Did the lawyers have to pay for the app, or was it a subscription type? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, the way that the app worked was essentially on a search by search basis for the most part. We did have a few clients that were paying like a subscription. So the business already had existing clients that they were doing these searches for before.
Mm-hmm.
And they built this tool to help improve the speed of that. And then took that tool and started offering it to the clients and looking for additional clients as well.
Gotcha. Okay. So 6 years. What then?
Yeah. So after those 6 years, that was right about the time that COVID happened, and we were at a point where I had to move on. We were kind of forced to because of the financial status of the company, and I actually lost my job right. I would say it was like the week or two right before like the US response to COVID and everything shut down in March. And it was kind of wild. I was like, "Oh man, like this is not going to go well." And thankfully enough, because of the type of work I do, how companies were moving towards remote work, and it just became a natural fit. And so like I was able to find this other company who was doing like employee surveys. I think they had kind of been ahead of the curve a little bit. I don't know that they were like that particular team. They were already trying to become remote friendly. So they were in a really good position. And I had this recruiter reach out to me, and we just got hooked up, and I joined the team. And then I was there for about 4 years. So I went from a startup to like a very large corporation. And that was very eye opening. I learned a lot, in addition, I kind of told you a little bit about like how it is being in a startup and how you have to move quickly. And you learn all sorts of things. When you move to a corporation, you learn how important it is to maintain things. So I get both ends of the spectrum essentially over a period of about 11 years.
Okay, so you said 4 years. Now it's at the beginning of COVID, so pretty recently that stopped then, right?
That's correct. Yep.
So what are you doing now?
Yeah. So right now, I'm still trying to figure some stuff out, man. So I joined the Sub 2 community in July 2023, and I joined Gator at the same time. The reason I joined was because I was becoming very interested in doing business acquisition. And from my perspective, I'm thinking like, well, man, if I could find a business, like a service-based business who needs someone with technical skills to come in and give it like an injection, tech to boost its revenue and to boost its clients, that would be a perfect fit. Like I've got all the skills necessary. I've done the startup stuff. I've done the corporate world stuff. So I kind of understand what it would look like in either scenario. And so that's kind of what got me introduced to Sub 2. I guess the YouTube algorithm figured out that I like creative finance because I was trying to understand like how do you finance a business, stuff like that. And so I got recommended Pace Morby's stuff, and the Gator stuff was actually first. So I saw that stuff. I was like, that's cool. Like I could do that stuff on the side. And then I saw the Sub 2 stuff, I think right after I joined Gator, and I was like, that that would be great to learn like all about creative finance on the real estate side as well, because eventually I'd like to balance out the portfolio. So that's kind of where I got introduced to our community. Fast forward a year later, I had done like 2 deals, and then I actually got laid off as a part of a huge tech layoff. Like the company laid off about, I want to say just 2,600 people. Uh,
Jeez.
yeah, so, it wasn't entirely unexpected, but it's not a position you want to be in. So when that happened, I decided, you know what, let me try to like double down a little bit on this connector stuff that I had been doing for the last year. I did like 2 deals. And so I dug into that a little bit more, tried that out. And I realized, you know what? I'm probably better off focusing mostly on the skills that I already have. Especially, if I'm trying to like find clients, get business going, let me just do stuff around integrator work. And so I've kind of shifted over the last couple of months. You'll probably go back and see posts in the community where I was talking about doing connector stuff. And then I made a shift to talking about doing integrator work. And so, there's been this shift that I've been making to hopefully provide a lot more value to the community, but also to really just play to my strengths. Like, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm in a position where I'm looking for clients who need help with like systems, automation, AI, web apps, that kind of stuff. And at the same time, I'm keeping a couple other pots stirred, like, because I don't know exactly what's going to hit. And maybe this is not for the better. I'm still learning, but I'm looking for W-2 positions as well. And then I'm also trying this crowdfunding campaign for an app that I think would be very helpful to a lot of people. I've done like a proof of concept for it, but I'd like to build out into a full native app. So I need people who are actually interested in it though to help fund the development of it if we're going to turn it into a reality.
Gotcha. Okay. So first, integrator. Okay. Are you looking to do more like contract stuff? Like if say I'm like, hey, I'm trying to build a team, and like I told you earlier, I have no idea about the tech side stuff. I'm just kind of winging it as I go. Are you like offering contract services? Hey, I'll come in, build this out for you, show you how to run it, that type thing? Or are you looking to be a part of someone's team and be their actual integrator?
That's a really great question. I think it depends on the situation. Typically, I would start by offering project-based work to folks, but I would be willing to partner with somebody for cases where they already have a cash flowing business. And that's kind of the key is if somebody's kind of just getting started and trying to figure stuff out, I'm not really in a position to be able to join them as a partner. I did a video recently actually around how you can attract an integrator to your team. And there are a couple points I threw out, like you want to understand like the motivation of the integrator. Are they needing immediate cash flow, or are they able to take a little bit more risk? And then the other piece being, you need to be able to present to an integrator that you're going to actually be able to do the job that you say you're going to do. If the integrator is doing all the behind the scenes work, the nitty gritty stuff, they need to know that you're going to be able to actually go out and make the sales. So, if you don't have that prior experience, then how do I know that you're going to actually be able to deliver? Like, we're just going to end up spinning our wheels and not able to close leads. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I would just have to, in my case, I would have to know, hey, they've got a cash flowing business and they really just need that injection of tech to be able to grow. That would be like the ideal partner situation that I would consider.
Gotcha. Okay. So for the most part, if it's more of a startup type thing, you'd be open to contract. Hey, I'll help you out, build out this thing. But like, I'm hands off from that point. I'll build it, show you how to run it, and then that's it. You pay me and I'm done. Right?
To some degree, you always have to think about maintenance, right? Like I was actually putting together a post on this today. Whenever you build out a system, you always have to consider the cost of maintenance because inevitably things go wrong at some point. So like I would be willing to do the contract work, but there would have to be a discussion about like, okay, what are you going to now do now that this thing is built? Like, is it like, are you going to keep me on some kind of retainer or support, or are you going to call me up on a as needed basis? Like, we'd have to figure that part out. I wouldn't feel good about just stepping away and saying, all right, I'm out, and then leaving you to hang, like I just don't think that's doing right by people.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So you're doing a little bit of that from now, or maybe that's what you're looking for. This app that you're trying to crowdfund for, tell us a little bit about it. I can't find people to fund it if I don't know what it is.
Sure, sure. Yeah. The app is called Pick to Pass. The premise is essentially that you can take pictures and you can turn them into secure, memorable, and recoverable passphrases. So it's particularly useful for situations where, like, you've got a master password for something like a primary email account or a bank account or something like that that's really critical that you know typically you wouldn't be able to put into, you wouldn't want to like write it down on a piece of paper because maybe that gets compromised in some way. It's also going to be useful for cases where even if you've got a password manager, you still need to remember that master password. If you forget the master password, you're kind of screwed. So the app allows you to take pictures that mean something to you and then turn them into these passphrases that you can use in whatever use case you have. But if you just so happen to forget the passphrase, then you can use that original image to get your password back again. So it's supposed to help essentially enhance the recoverability portion. Also, it's supposed to help enhance your memory because the way our brains work is the more connections you can make with something, the better you're going to remember it. So the passphrases it generates are intended to be memorized as a story. And there's this technique that Jim Quick talks about. It's like the storytelling. I forget the other term, but it's like the storytelling technique where you say a word and then you create a story around it and it links to the next part, right? And you just keep adding. So that's how the passphrases are generated. But if you can make additional connections in your brain by using images, especially images that are meaningful to you, then it helps you form even stronger memories around it. And then you get the added, of okay, well, if I forget, I can still recover it.
Okay, interesting. And I guess that's going with the thinking. Okay, hang on. So they take a picture,
Mm-hmm.
and the app provides a couple phrases from that picture, so it analyzes the picture.
Yeah. So what it does is it takes your picture and it uses a technique called hashing to essentially turn your picture into a passphrase. You get to choose how many words you want in that passphrase. So you could select 2, 3, 6, up to 24. It's really kind of up to you, but it consistently produces the same passphrase. You might have a passphrase like duck acquisition and I don't know, like tennis or something like that. And that's like a 3-word passphrase.
Spaces?
Yeah. So when it gives you the passphrase, you're going to get it in spaces. You can take that passphrase and format it however you want after the fact. So I know for a lot of systems, for example, they're going to want like special characters, capitalization, all that stuff. There's nothing prohibiting you from taking your passphrase and making a few tweaks to it to meet whatever requirements that the system has.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to get that passphrase word by word with spaces in between, at least as a starting.
Gotcha. Okay, so it seems like, I don't know if this is a term, but hackability is low with this.
That's correct.
Because even if, say, you take a picture and get your passcode from it, if I somehow get that picture you took and I know that you're using this app, I go and put it in there. While it may give me the same words, at that point, I don't know whether it's a 3-word, 4-word, whatever type thing. It might give you, I'm assuming here, might give you a bunch of different words that you could use in that passphrase. But then I don't even know what order that you've put those words in. Is that accurate?
Well, to maybe clarify a little bit there, so the passphrase is always going to be in the same order. So the security portion is actually not around that. It's actually more around the fact that it's very hard to replicate an exact image, because the way the application works is that it requires you to have the exact same image. It has to have all the same dimensions, like the same width, the same height. It has to be the same file format. So if you're using like a JPEG versus a PNG, like those are not the same. And it also has to have the exact same pixel representation. So I did a demo video and I showed how I changed a single pixel. I actually like zoomed in very far, took a copy of one pixel, pasted it in the pixel beside it. So it looks basically identical, but the passphrase that you get from that is different. So even if like I was showing you my picture and I said, hey, this is what I use for my passphrase, and I shared it on my screen and you took a screenshot, there's no way you're going to be able to recover the same passphrase, like realistic.
Okay, so just don't make your picture for your passphrase your Facebook profile picture.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be a good idea. If you share the image in a way that's downloadable in the same, exactly the same, that's not going to work. You're going to have a bad time.
There you go. Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. I know I've done that with a lot of my passwords, but I just make up random words.
Mm-hmm.
The last one I did, I'm not going to tell you guys, but I literally just like looked around my room and I was like, that, and that. All right. That's my password.
I love it. Dude, that actually isn't a bad idea, because like you could use the whole, storytelling memory palace idea to remember something like that. And you remember your room and everything like that. That's not a bad way to go, honestly. So as long as you can remember it, that's the key. Is can you remember it? And as long as I'll be honest. I actually think the power of the app is really just in having some kind of recoverability for master passwords, because like in most of these applications, say like Facebook or whatever it is, you log into this thing, you're using an email, right? Like you're always going to have that button to say, "Oh, I forgot my password." And if whoever has access to the email can change the password. So, as long as that's where I would say like your master password is the password that's on the email that you're using for all your accounts. And that's the most important.
Gotcha. So the only thing I know similar to that is like LastPass.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's one other. I just can't remember the name. There might be more, but you're obviously closer to the industry than I am. Like, how big of a marketplace is that for you for this app in particular?
Yeah, I think it's applicable to anyone and everyone who has online accounts. I mean, like the question is really just a matter of how much you value memorizability and recoverability for your master passwords. The thing that makes this different from most everything else that I've seen is that most of these other products are just password managers. So at the end of the day, you still have to go in, type in a master password into this password manager, and then you can go in and get access to all your individual passwords for your various accounts. But if you forget that master password, you're in trouble. And so this addresses the case where you really need to make sure that you are not forgetting that master password. You need to have some way to recover it. And most people will just write their master password down on a piece of paper somewhere. But if somebody found that, then you could be in big trouble. So the value, aside from the recoverability and being able to make more connections in your brain to memorize, is going to be that I could take a picture and just store it along all my other pictures, and no one would ever know that I'm actually using that for a passphrase. Like there's nothing about that image that would indicate that.
Just make sure you don't delete that picture.
That's true. It's a similar problem though to like if you write it down somewhere, then you have
And
to
then
make
your wife
sure.
comes in and cleans your room,
Right.
throws all the papers away.
Exactly. And so you still have a problem. This kind of gets into like replication or backups. Typically for anything you have, you always want to have a backup. I recently had a bad experience where I didn't back up stuff and I learned the hard way. You would think that the tech guy wouldn't have that kind of problem, but sometimes we get busy and we don't think about those things. And,
I thought you were
it's
all
going to be
robots.
it's going to be a similar issue with your passwords. Like you want to keep backups, but with passwords, like you look at it and you can kind of tell it's a password. Like, and typically you're not going to be recommended by security experts to like store your passwords digitally either, especially in like online, like Google Drive or anything like that. Because if that gets
Best place to put
compromised,
them is go into your Reddit profile, make a post, all right, anonymous, so nobody knows who they are. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Don't do that, guys.
you know what? As long as you're obfuscated, nobody really knows who you are. I guess maybe it could work. I really wouldn't recommend it though.
Let's
I've
play a
never
game,
heard that
guys.
one
Here's all
before.
my passwords. See if you can hack me.
Man, I've never heard somebody suggest something like that before, but I kind of want to like set up some fake accounts and do it and see if somebody can figure it out.
There you go. There you go. Just with something that's like here's my Krispy Kreme rewards password. I don't know if Krispy Kreme has a rewards program at all. I should. I love Krispy Kreme, but there's not one close to me. No, that's okay. That's cool. That clears it up a little bit. Because you had told me a little bit about this in when you signed up for the podcast, and it was pick to pass. And I'll be honest, now that you've explained it, it makes sense. But reading pick to pass, if I didn't know anything about it, hearing pick to pass, my first thought was kind of like a Tinder type thing.
That's interesting.
Or something. Where you're looking at a picture and you choose whether you like it or you're going to pass on it. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I got to throw in the little phrase, that describes what it is after the fact. Fortunately, I couldn't think of like a really succinct name other than pick to pass. But when you throw in the little the catchphrase and the little logo I've got, it's kind of cool. Like it's a little camera and it's got a little lock. It's like a camera but a lock, if that makes sense. So you'd see it and it would make a little bit more sense. Yeah, the thing I find is I found as I've been talking to people about it is that it doesn't immediately seem valuable if you don't like have explain this specific use case, because most people kind of like yourself, you were saying, well, I've heard of LastPass, right? But this thing is not really a password manager. It can be used as a part of your practices around password management, but it's not built to be a password manager. I may in the future add that as additional functionality if people support the development of the app, but that's not the first thing that I'm focused on.
Gotcha. Yeah, you could probably do I don't know if you've got a catchphrase or whatever in your mind already, but play along with the picture's worth 1,000 words, and then or picture's worth 1,000 passwords.
Ooh. Somebody
Yeah.
trademark that.
There you go. No, that's cool, dude. I hope that goes well. And guys, if you're watching this and you're like, that does sound really cool. Well, how are they going to be able to fund it? Actually, that's a good question, Kyle. How would someone who watches this go, you know what? I like that. I see potential in it. How would they help you with that?
Yeah, so right now I am working on getting the crowdfunding campaign finalized on Indiegogo. I've got a pre-launch campaign up and ready to go. I've been trying to tweak a few little things before I launch it because I wanted to make sure like the people who help fund the project are actually going to be able to use the proof of concept app like immediately. So like I want to be able to provide it. I wanted to be able to provide immediate value, and then I also want to set up like a Discord server so people can chat and ask questions, and then vote on potential features that we add on after the primary feature. So I'm getting close. I got a little sick the last week or two, and so it kind of slowed me down. But the link to that pre-launch is up at the moment, and I can share that with you if you'd like. And then once the campaign actually goes live, then you'll be able to contribute.
Okay, so here's what we'll do. Kyle will shoot me over the link, and I'll put it in the description below. And so if you like the concept and you want to jump in and help fund it, boom, there you go. Sounds like you get some value immediately. So instead of, and again, assumptions, I don't know anything about all this stuff, but it sounds like instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to give you my money to get this thing started, and then you wait for who knows how long to see results, it sounds like Kyle here's made the not distinction, determination. No, I feel like that's not right either. Anyways, the decision. Wow, how is that so hard? The decision to go ahead and give you value up front. So, guys, go ahead and do that. Anything else, Kyle, that you want to talk about before we move on to the last part of our show?
Not unless you want to get into AI. That's a big topic of interest of mine. I've been kind of following along with that stuff, and I've actually put some posts out into our community recently around how you could leverage it for just everyday use cases. But that might be kind of lengthy, so it's up
Yeah,
to you.
I think let's save that for another one, or just a chat, and maybe we'll make shorter videos or something about it. Because I, again, don't know a whole lot about it, and I get that there are things it can help with. I'm wary about it as well, with how it could be used maliciously, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
So,
As you should be.
so, but yeah, let's wait until the next time we chat for that one.
Sounds great.
Which means, guys, there will have to be a next time. All right, we're putting it out there, putting it out. Boom. Anyways, so Kyle, last few questions, pretty basic, same ones I ask everybody. First, what made you want to be on the podcast today?
Well, Corey, I actually really love what you're doing. Like, I love the fact that you're talking to all sorts of people, whether they're just kind of getting started or they're really experienced in the community. Like, it is really neat. There's a ton of people in this community who have various experiences. Like, I talked to somebody the other day who had been doing venture capital, I think. And I was like, man, like I would have never had the chance to talk with that person if we weren't in this community together. So I just love what you're doing. Like you're spotlighting people. And I think that's so cool. Plus, I owed you one, dude. Like, cause we had that intro call. I think it was like 2 months ago or something like that. And then I never followed up on booking the call with you. So I apologize, man, but I owed you one. Hopefully this was interesting and provided you some value and other folks some value as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, dude, it's all good. And these past few months have been insane. So, like, I'll be honest, I totally forgot that we had already talked. So now I kind of feel bad because I'm like, this is the first time I'm talking to him. That was a lie, guys. I apologize. I'm working on my memory retention. All right. So,
I don't
anybody
think
who
anybody's going to blame you for forgetting about a 15-minute conversation that you had months ago. Yeah, it's all good, dude. But I remembered. I knew
honestly,
that I needed to follow up and make good on my promise.
awesome. Awesome. All right. So, let's move on to the second question. Someone decides, they've seen this podcast with you and they're like, man, I want to work with Kyle, right? He seems to know what he's talking about. My computer is from 1998. Like, I need help, whatever. what kind of value could you bring to that person?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways. So, if you've got questions about systems, automation, AI, web apps, anything like that, please feel free to reach out. I've got a couple different avenues that I try to help people with, like from just sending a quick response back to doing like a free consultation. I've got like a period of time that I set aside at the end of my days to be able to help people who are stuck. And then we take a recording of that and we share it with other people so other people can be helped too. If you want to actually pay me to do the work for you, I can help you with all that stuff I mentioned before. So at this point in my career, I've done enough that I'm confident I can do about anything, especially with the new advances in AI. There's still some, you know, maybe some small gaps here and there, but honestly, like the tools are so good. Like I think you could really do about anything you dream at this point.
Interesting. Okay. So on the flip side of that, someone comes to you asking for help or just wanted to work with you. What value are you hoping to get from them?
Yeah, I would say having connections is always valuable because you never know, like somebody in somebody else's network might like open the floodgates for you. I'm looking for new clients at the moment. So if you wanted to be a client or somebody else who could use someone like me, I'd be happy to take them on as a client as well. You are looking for an integrator in your cash flowing business and you need someone like me to come in and just give you that extra boost. I'd love to talk with you as well. My long-term goal is to do business acquisitions, but I'm definitely not opposed to joining people as a partner for some equity along the way.
Beautiful. And then what's some advice you would have for someone who's newer into the game?
Yeah, this is good. I would say first, like focus on your purpose. Really know why you're going to do something. If you don't have an underlying purpose, it's going to be very hard to continue to push forward. Like making money is not enough at the end of the day. Money comes and it goes. It's like the wind, as the Bible says. So focus on your purpose, make that a priority. And then secondly, I would say pick something and focus on it. I'm constantly weighing with this more recently just because of the position that I'm in is I'm keeping a couple pots stirred, but I know like if I pick something and focused, the probability of that one thing doing well would probably increase. And this is something that I really struggled with when I first joined the community because I was trying to learn all these things. I literally like blasted through all the sub 2 courses and the Gator courses within the first like month. And that was great. Like there's always a period of time you have to maybe try some different things, but if you just can focus on one thing at a time, you're just going to be so much more productive overall. You're going to have your outcomes are going to be vastly different. So I need to swallow some of my own advice a little bit. I know, and I'm still working through some things, but those would be the two primary things I would say.
Okay. So here's a little piece of advice. This is what's helped me
I'll take it.
because I do the same thing, right? All over the place. I started out in Gator. I spent a year in Gator and then joined Sub 2. That's really where I kind of took off. Saying that, still looking for my first deal. I've learned a ton, made connections with a ton of people, got to experience some awesome things, got to travel to Arizona for the first time, went down to Orlando for Squad Up. Great times. But with what you had just said, the understanding that you're kind of stirring a couple pots, but you really need to focus on one. I don't know how your wife is, okay? Or if there's someone else that hangs around closer to you. But when it comes, especially for fitness and stuff like that, for me,
Mm.
my wife she's on it. So, because we do 75 hard, we listen to Andy Frisella, and one of the things he distinguishes between is that everybody has two voices. They have a boss voice that tells them, hey, you know what you need to do, go do it. And then you got a bitch voice that's like, let's just sleep in bed a little longer. Let's just do this, and the bitch voice is really clever. The more you listen to one of those voices, the stronger it gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my wife is fantastic because she'll hear my bitch voice before I hear my bitch voice. And so she'll go, kind of sounding like a bitch right now.
Mm.
I'm like, all right, fine. So, but if you can, and maybe you've already done this, but maybe if you explain to your wife, hey, look, I'm struggling to focus in on one thing, right? All I'm asking is that you call me out if you see me start following different paths, right? And that's it. Have her call you out. Don't have her ask you what you're doing or why you're doing it because we can make excuses.
Mm.
Oh, I'm doing this because of this. No, 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 no. You said you were doing this, so go do it. That's simple. It
That's good.
sucked, but well, sweet man. Okay, so somebody realizes they want to work with you, either pay you, consult with you, whatever, partner with you. What's the best way for someone to get in touch with you in order to do that?
Yeah, at the moment, you can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Those are all the ways I've tried to make myself available to folks. Hit me up in a message, hit me up in a comment. I'll see those. I might not always get back to you like in 5 seconds because
Might be a couple months.
I am trying to focus. Well, not a couple months nowadays. Hopefully, as long as you don't end up in my spam. I have had a few of those, and I was like, oh man, like I didn't even know that was there. But I have periods of time where I focus. Like I'm trying to do this time blocking stuff, so I focus and I don't do other things. But I will try to at least say hi back to you, hopefully within the day.
Yeah, I got to refine that a little more. My time blocking right now consists of, well, I'm mixing time blocking and the power list. So
I haven't
basically,
heard of Power List.
okay, so power list is basically every morning, you wake up, you have this little journal, and it's supposed to be 5 things. You write your 5 most critical things that you have to do in that day to win the day. And so it needs to be like pretty thought out. It's not just like,
Mm.
you know, go see my dog or, go do this or go blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's supposed to be as specific as possible. So an example could be reach out to this person about this thing during this time,
Mm.
right? But it's 5 things, and it doesn't matter how long it takes to do them. If you get them done, say you get them done before 9 a.m., you've won the day. You can spend the rest of the day doing whatever the heck you want, right? But those 5 things are what you need to do. So I've combined that with a time blocking type thing to where I know my first block of the day is my morning routine, right? Shower, meditate, read 10 pages, and do my Duolingo, right? Then my next block, do like a little 30-minute break or however long. Sometimes it's me driving to work or driving home. Next thing I'm doing is the most important things, right? So making posts, connecting with people, getting with my team, making sure they have leads, all that stuff, doing daily training, stuff like that. And then another little break. My next block is like, well, for me today it was these podcasts, doing recording these, taking the car to get tires, like all these little things. So my power list is actually way more than 5 things, but I've separated it into at least 3 to 4 chunks. And it's just made it easier for me to make sure okay, I need to focus on this, 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 and this. Boom, get that done.
Mm.
Relax. Now I need to focus on this, that type thing. And I don't actually have time set to it. They're just chunks.
Hmm. That sounds very similar to some other things I've heard. So you're doing yours like at the beginning of the day, like you're saying these are going to be the things I do.
So I actually started writing them out I write out tomorrow's stuff tonight before I go to bed.
Nice. So then you don't have to think about it; you just get right into it. Oh, that's awesome.
Now sometimes I miss it, but this morning I had to write it out. Yeah. Well, I hope that helps, Kyle. I hope you learned something. I know I learned something. Guys watching, I hope you learned something. If not, start it over, rewatch it, and actually pay attention. Anyways,
I think you drove it home.
good, good. Hope so. Well, Kyle, that's my show. That's all I got. Audience, that's all we got today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe. Come back next week. Every Monday we drop these. And I know Christmas is coming up, but guys, we're still going to be going. All right. So check out who's coming on next week. And until then, peace be with you. Be safe. Love you guys. Have a wonderful week.